Hello, hello, hello. We are here, and I would just love to um, ask a couple of questions for Kay here. She has no idea what's going to happen here, and um, I'm curious about this amazing work you put together for your 30 Love Values book. And I'm curious as to what would you say your top three love values are in this book?
Well, good question, Rory, and thank you. For me, one of the top ones has always been trust, because that encompasses a whole host of other values in itself. Then there is, let's say, trust. Oh, you've thrown me on the spot. Late at night as well.
You're allowed to look at the book.
Honesty,
You don't
trust.
have to. You can look at the book.
No, it's right. Trust, honesty, and integrity. That's it. That was just a mental block later. Trust, honesty, and integrity have always been my top three, because when you trust people, they trust you in return. When you're honest with people, they're honest with you in turn. And also for me, integrity was a really big one, because when you uphold your own integrity by knowing your values and your boundaries and your barriers, and making sure that you stretch yourself, that you push outside of your own barriers, but not letting other people trample over your barriers. If you don't protect your own barriers and you don't know where they are, how can somebody else respect them? And so for me, having that integrity was really important, because then when life throws challenges at you and other people try to overstep boundaries, that integrity is the bit that holds you in place, and it helps you to stand strong through some of the most difficult times in life, and especially when it comes to interpersonal communications, relationships, workplace, family, friends, relationships. That integrity is really important. And I've very often found that when I've been challenged in life by other people, because people do attack verbally, emotionally, in many ways, that as long as I've upheld my integrity, other people will stand beside me. And you find yourself less alone in those difficult times, because that helps you earn the trust of other people. And they will quite happily then stand up and go, no, I'm standing here beside you and we support you. And yet, when you've broken your own integrity and you've broken the trust of other people, and then you come across challenges in life, that's when it can be easy to feel alone and to feel like the world is against you. So to me, those are three that, for ever since I was probably in my teens, have been really important to me and have just become integral as part of who I am over time for many reasons. So,
Oh, amazing
okay.
for sharing so openly about that. And I notice, I notice, like you just shared, there's a link between them all
Yeah.
in a lot of ways that can be about the self and then working that with others in any
Yes. Yeah.
relationships. And is there a time when you noticed that the most in a relationship?
Um, yes, I think there has been lots of times I've noticed it more, even though they've always been present as the link between them. But certainly, like I said, when there have been challenges around wider family, friends, jobs, when one of us has come under personal attack for whatever reason, because life is life and people are people. And that is when, for me, I've noticed that connection between, and even at work, um, I've noticed how when I've built trust and honesty and integrity with work colleagues, and then I've been blamed or something for something happening, colleagues have stood up and said, "No, Kay wouldn't do that. That's not her fault. You don't know her well enough. And that's where, like you say, you will literally find other people step up and stand beside you. So that's where I do notice that link between them in those moments. But also, it's just having that camaraderie with people and that connection with people that's so much easier when they trust you. And when you've been honest with people and they're honest back, that builds a trust, because it's hard to be tapping into that sense of trust with people that are not honest with each other. So they are integral. And that's the thing I found with all 30 of these values, that depending on the depth of a relationship, there is more and more of these that do all interlink. And certainly when it finally comes to interpersonal relationships in terms of partners and marriage and children, I mean, not necessarily all of these were children by the time you get into romance and sensuality, but the more interpersonal a relationship gets, the more of these values interlink. But there are still a lot of them that are relevant to even having a conversation with a stranger in the street. There's also those element of boundaries and barriers around like trust and integrity. So if you're meeting a stranger and having a conversation, where are your boundaries and barriers there? So it might not be always about being fully open and fully trustworthy, but actually protecting yourself using those exact same values. So it kind of goes, look, whatever boundary and barrier there is, there's two sides to it. There's your side and there's somebody else's side. So it's recognizing where they sit for you as an individual, and being able to manage the sort of a little bit of fluidity around them. So with this person, my boundaries are wide open, but with somebody else, I might be a little bit more guarded. And so for me, it's about when you know how they sit for you as an individual and you are more consciously aware of these values, it makes it a lot easier to navigate them in varying relationships. So, yeah, thank you.
Lovely, awesome. What I got from all of that, which is really interesting, is like when your highest values are there and you've got clear on them, um, regardless of the challenges that go on between people, relationships, and when to feel like you need to apply it more to yourself or others. Um, what I heard was even when it's being sort of unspokenly stood by,
Yeah.
there's some underlying unspoken comeback where it comes back to you
Yeah.
even through the most challenging times
Yeah.
by just sort of exuding it, even if we get lost in those challenges ourselves and we don't even notice that we've got lost, that because we've stood by that ourselves, those are the times when we get reminded.
Yeah. And then I've certainly felt that come back over the years, longer term as well as short term. So some of these values can interact very quickly. But when it came to raising my children, for example, nurturing, caring, kindness, the gift of presence, like being present, there are so many more values in there where they're all relevant to being available to support and nurture my children growing up emotionally. And yes, I know I talk a lot in my other books and in Brain Unchained about the suicidal depression my son went through for many years, but I still stuck by my own integrity of all of my values in delivering all of that and being present for him. Listening skills is another one. So there is the listening, still being able to trust him, show him the value of all of these as well, until eventually, when he came out of that depression, our relationship was even stronger than ever. So I've always had a really, really strong relationship with my children because most of these values come into play with them as well. And now with my grandchildren. So I've seen the benefit. And so for me, it was like when I had that epiphany of like the conversation, we had quite a few months back now, and we were talking about neurodiversity and values in terms of, because you've got your value cards. And it just triggered me to realize that if I'm talking my key work about people not being able to understand their own core emotions, because many neurodivergent people, even as adults and mature adults, and even very intelligent adults, don't necessarily understand emotional awareness in the same way. And this is why we can get some really highly successful people with a lot of emotional intelligence, which is slightly different than the emotional awareness, which is a different level. They can be absolutely successful at work, turn up in the office, lead a boardroom, close sales off perfectly, but they can go home and be the most horrendous family member ever, completely unintentionally. But if they don't know how to carry the emotional awareness into the family, they can become abusive, neglectful, and quite harmful and toxic within their own families. Um, I realize that actually there's also a lot of people who are neurodivergent who, if they're struggling with their own emotions, how can they then understand their values and nurture their values within a relationship if they're struggling to nurture their own values and their own emotions? And so for me, it just then triggered this whole concept of I need to do another book here. So if we're literally missing key emotional information, then we're definitely missing values information as well. And there is a tremendously high rate of breakups and divorce amongst families with autism in particular. Children who are on the autistic spectrum are far more likely to have a broken family. And I realized that again, this ties in with the emotional awareness, which is my key topic, neurodiversity and emotion and the autism is a big I've got the right word. In autism, there is a big gap in emotional learning and therefore the values that come with it. And so again, if we can start to fill that gap with information, and it's not to fix people, but it's to empower people to take control of their own lives, to be able to take the power back for themselves. So instead of waiting until people are going to therapy or going to prison or going through divorce and breakup and becoming shared parents and all of that, what if we could give people the knowledge that they need, A, to understand their emotions, and B, to understand their values, in how to then take those values into a family situation, into a work situation. For the people that are struggling to keep friends, how to maintain longevity in friendships through the values they share, right? And also, the one that's most important, I haven't even said in any of this yet, is our values to ourselves, our own self values. Because say, if we don't understand our own values and the boundaries and barriers that we set around them, how can we then also do the same for a partner, a friend, a manager, a colleague, children? Is to help them understand and maintain their values and boundaries. And I don't think we can teach anybody anything we haven't learned for ourselves first. So that is why there are 30 in there. Because when we had that conversation, I said, oh, I'm going to write some values down. And I was expecting to write about 20. And literally by the next day, I was still going and I'd got to 30 that literally are coming out of my head as I'm walking around the flat, thinking, oh, there's another one, there's another one. And I'm literally role playing through my life, what's helped me through my life. And these 30 values, every single one of them has played a part in my life in some way, shape, or form on a very regular basis. So they're not even ones that I might only use once or twice a year, or maybe less with the sensuality and all that because I'm single now. But some of the others in there, are absolutely crucial to me every single day with interactions I have online with clients as well, and doing the podcast and the conversations we have through that as well.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And again, another thing that I get from that is that regardless of what kind of relationship we're in or if we were looking for one, or it comes down to what the learnings that I know about that I've learned, that everything starts to come to me through me already being in them. And so regardless of whether it's, I want to be in a relationship or I'm in one or I want to improve it or whatever, um, I have to I have to be all those values first. So regardless of whether someone's in a relationship or not, that book's going to be so useful to remind of those ones so that we can live that experience, uh, because it's not about wanting to be something or other externally or in the future, but be it now, and then people notice that. So the difference between, say, for instance, going on a date and wishing for honesty, looking for trust, already trusting, coming through from inside to out is more likely to reflect back at attracting the right kind of person in the first place, or improving that relationship from the inside out.
Yeah. And that's a really good example, Rory. Because if somebody's out dating, for example, and this is where it is going to be really valuable for young people as well, who are now getting into relationships. In fact, I'm saying about broken relationships. Anybody of any age looking to go back into relationships, when you're going out dating, for example, and you're saying that honesty, um, a lot of people will go out and put on this complete fake persona, and everything about them comes across as this is how I want to be seen, rather than being authentic. So I think this is a big thing about understanding your values and being authentic. Because if you go out and you put out this persona that you want to match somebody else you want, but then when you start to get familiar with them and you relax that persona, you're not what they wanted anymore, because you're not the person they were showing up to meet. And when you let go of that, then you start to find this disconnect. And then they do the same. And suddenly the two people that are dating are no longer the two people that met. So there is this element of being authentic from the start. And this is where this helps you turn up as the best version of yourself, not the fake person that's trying to hide the person you really are behind it because you want this person to like you. So there's also the bit about when you can be authentic and turn up and learn about these values to a level where you recognize in somebody else that they don't quite fit the values you're looking for in somebody else, is when to just cut ties there and then and learn to let go as well, rather than trying to hang on because you want to be loved. It's actually recognizing, well, actually, I want to keep looking for the right person to be loved by, the person who will get me for who I am, who will understand all of my values. And this is the thing, even with a business partnership, I know between me and you, that's been a big thing, is understanding each other's vision, mission, and values. And even here, that has been a crucial part of what we've worked on over the last year, even as collaborators and podcasters and book mentoring and mental fitness training, and all of this has still come into play. Because how can you coach me to achieve my vision, mission, values in business if you haven't understood my values in that? Because you could be sending me off on your set of values, which is very different and doesn't feel authentic to me. And so this is where how crucial it is in everyday interactions and conversations and relationships across the board. But say certainly starting with self, because otherwise, like I said, if I didn't know my values and you're trying to coach me, I could be going further and further away. And this is when we then feel lost, like we've sold our soul. And I've certainly been in that situation in jobs and in relationships where values misalign and you do feel like you've sold your soul, and you lose who you are as an individual. And that's a horrible place to be, when you literally sit here alone at the end of the day and say, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like there literally is no recognition of who you are as a person, as an individual. And it is a horrible place that I have been unfortunate enough to experience. Um, but at the same time, I've also experienced all the positive sides of all of it as well. And that's why it's important to recognize them, work on them, and uphold them with boundaries and barriers, because the minute people overtread them, that's when you get lost. It's not your world and inside those barriers anymore, and you can get kind of lost in the process. So it's there's definitely a lot to be said for this. Yeah, definitely a lot.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, thank you. Awesome. And we're meeting on the November the 13th.
Yes.
You
World Kindness Day. Yeah.
World Kindness Day, and
One of the values is kindness. So yeah.
amazing, amazing. And yeah, we're going to be celebrating your launch of this book. What's going to be going on there?
Right, this is going to be exciting. So it is a combination event of the book launch and fundraising for Davian Cares. So what we're going to do is we're starting off with the book launch. So we'll be starting off talking about 30 love values. I'll be doing a bit of a presentation about the contents of the book, going through a little bit more about the 5 sections that are set up in there, because rather than just a list of 30, they're broken into subsections. So I'll bring some information forward out of some of the chapters and points in there. Then I've got somebody doing a reading who did one of the reviews for me. So somebody else is going to come and do a little speech, Oliver Marcel. So I'm really grateful because he is a relationship coach and he's read the book and he was absolutely taken by it and said definitely one he'll recommend, even as a relationship coach. So that's a big endorsement from him. That's amazing. So yeah, he's going to come and do a speech, and then we are going to be doing a little Q&A, and then there's going to be a slight shift between that and the fundraising because we're going to have a poetry session. And Rory, Emma, Sue, and myself, and another person that I'm collaborating with are all going to do, that's Andrew Crawford. He's going to come in as well. And we're all going to do a short poetry session each. You all get a chance to share about your books as well, because this is all part of the self-help bookshelf, which is the group that's come off the back of me writing my books. So we now all collaborate as well. So there's more values in there in how we share and support each other as a group of coaches, mentors, and therapists. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that little poetry session for about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour. And then I'm supposed to have a guest visitor, and I still haven't arranged that one. I've got to do that one. We will have a guest visitor of some sort, somehow, somewhere. There will be another guest arrive, one way or another. And then once that's over, we are then going to be moving into, I think, a final Q&A, and then one of Rory's infamous online discos. So no, thank you for volunteering to do that again, Rory. That'd be amazing. So yes, it's worth coming along, but it's £1 a ticket to get in this time. This is not a free event, but it's £1 a ticket. And that pound will go to Davian Cares Foundation to support Ben Mukasa. Oh, Ben will be speaking as well, who's looking after 62 children that he's rescued off the streets of Uganda. And that is why we're asking that anybody who does turn up commits to at least supporting the charity part of the event with at least £1. Now, if you want to donate more at the point of booking the ticket, you can, but it is a minimum of £1 for those that can't afford to. So we don't want to exclude you totally. And for anyone who wants to donate more on the night, maybe already bought a ticket, then we've got a GoFundMe page set up as well. But also anything, bear with me, whether it is Brain Unchained, whether it is 30 love values, or bear with me, Darker Than Dark, or Mindfulness with Flowers, or any of my notebooks and journals. They're all on Amazon. So in total, there's 19 books to choose from now. Any of those that I sell between now and the end of the event on the 13th, 50% of the profits from each book will go to Davian Cares Foundation as well. So if you don't want to donate, but you want to buy one of the books, you are still going to be helping on World Kindness Day to assist Ben Mukasa in feeding and housing 62 children. Now, our target is £450 because we want to be able to pay, as a self-help bookshelf, we've agreed we would like to be able to cover 1 year's rent for them to ensure they stay off the streets. And anything we raise over that will go to their food, clothing, healthcare, and education. But ideally, we want to at least keep a roof over their heads for a whole year. Now, can you imagine that being one of the best Christmas presents ever, knowing that you're not going to be out on the street for another year at that age? That's incredible. So that means a lot to me, and the kindness that I want to share on that day is to support them. And thank you to you, Sue and Emma, for all helping as well. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing, fantastic. Thanks for sharing all of that. It was yeah, I thought I'd ask you rather than try to remember myself.
That's
Um,
great. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, that's yeah. Please come along. We'll stick the details of the events and the contribution to the fundraiser in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching, and
Okay,
please come along.
lovely. And there we go. And I'll just show you an idea what we get. Love's pillars of strength and devotion, trust, loyalty, and commitment. And this is how I've broken them down. So each section of the book has got sort of a division of how that works with different relationships as well. So if anybody wants a copy, even now, it's on Amazon. We'll put the link in. And like I say, 50% up to the end of book, the book launch will go to Davian Cares. So no, thank you for that, Rory, and thank you for the questions. That's amazing. Thank you.
Problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Forward to
Appreciation. There we go.
it.
Bye bye.
Bye.